Is this thing on? Okay. My fellow Americans, I'm sure that you have all heard the news today that Japan, led by its Emperor Hirohito, has just invaded Manchuria, which is a part of China. The country will now be called Manchukuo and will be under Japanese influence. Let me assure everyone that war is out of the picture for us. The Chinese have claimed that the Mukden incident, which Japan cited as the cause of the invasion, was a false flag set up by the Japanese. I'm not sure about it myself. There are wonderful, fine people on both sides of this conflict. While my intelligence officials have told me that the Mukden incident was a false flag attack and that Japan is an aggressor nation, I don't believe them. And you may ask why. I just had a great phone call with General Hideki Tojo, a very smart guy. He assured me that there was absolutely nothing to worry about. I completely believe him. I know that you will all look to me in these times of crisis. So stay tuned for another fireside chat. What fucking morons. I can't believe they elected me over Roosevelt. These people are so easy to con. Wait, is this thing still on? Holy shit, turn it the fuck off. My fellow Americans, today I will be addressing the recent war in Abyssinia. Italy under Benito Mussolini has invaded Ethiopia. A lot of people are upset about it. I would like to tell everyone that this isn't as bad as you think. Mussolini is a strong and smart leader, someone with great instincts. I believe we could negotiate with him. I trust that he is doing the right thing for his people and the Ethiopians. Some people have said that the Italians attacked the Ethiopians with chemical weapons and indiscriminate bombing against civilians. There is little evidence of it. My great Secretary of State, Charles Lindbergh, told me that it was fake news concocted by the Judeo-Bolshevik capitalist elite that her Hitler and Father Coughlin have been warning about. Fake news concocted to make us sympathize with lesser beings and vermin, not to mention our so-called democratic allies, Britain and France, did the same thing to those Africans. Democracy, fascism, what's the difference? Lastly, some people have warned about the spread of fascism worldwide. There is absolutely nothing to worry about, folks. It will go away on its own, maybe even by Easter. Thank you for listening and take care. My fellow Americans, I have just received word that German leader Adolf Hitler has remilitarized the Rhineland. I wanted to extend my heartfelt congratulations to him. It's a smart move unlike anything I've ever seen. The French and British didn't expect it at all. The Versailles Treaty was rigged to begin with, and I support Hitler's efforts in tearing it to pieces. Charles Lindbergh told me that the treaty was written by the Jews and imposed on Germany, despite the fact that they were winning the war. As a military genius, I have to agree. Many here, including my demented political enemies such as Franklin Roosevelt and Henry Wallace, have claimed that we have a unique responsibility in stopping aggression. Hitler is just moving troops on his own land. The global situation will not get any worse than this, and there won't be a war. The threat of fascism conquering the world can still go away by Easter. We have a job to do, and that is to make America great again. It can only be done by focusing on home. God bless you all. My fellow Americans, today I would like to discuss the Spanish Civil War with you all. Generalissimo. By the way, I love that word, a big word. Francisco Franco has attempted to overthrow the Spanish Republic by force, and fighting has broken out all across the country as we speak. There have also been reports of Stalinists and anarchists killing each other. All factions of this brutal war have great people in them. What Franco did was a very clever thing because he detected weakness in the Republic. I sure hope no one does that to me. Moving on, there have been reports of German involvement. The Germans bombed the living shit out of Gonega. It was a thing to behold, the biggest bombing anyone's ever seen. It killed many innocent people, but that's war. I applaud Britain and France's decision to refrain from involving themselves in this war. I hear that the Republican government has atheists and communists, and we can't have that. By now, many are claiming to have identified a pattern of fascist aggression, and that the more we appease these people, the more aggressive they become. Foreign Minister Ribbentrop has convinced me that this is not the case. This whole thing of fascism spreading everywhere will go away on its own. It's just taking a bit longer than expected. Okay, bye. Folks, news of a Japanese attack on Shanghai has just reached my desk. The slaughter was bigly unlike anything you've seen. The city was drowning in blood. While it would be easier to just blame the Japanese for this, I think there's plenty of blame to go around on both sides. I like Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek a lot, so it's hard to pick who I like more. Many Americans are demanding that I implement an embargo on the Japanese to prevent oil and other raw materials from fueling their war machine. This would be a big mistake, folks. The money we get from that trade is a good deal. It's the art of the deal. Hideki Tojo has told me that the Japanese have no intention of attacking the United States, and I believe him, believe me. As always, I am successfully keeping us out of war. Make America great again. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I gave up on the my fellow Americans bullshit a long time ago. Today, the German Reich, led by glorious Führer Adolf Hitler, has just annexed Austria. A brilliant move. Yet again, the British and French were caught with their pants down. Kurt Schuschnigg has just been forced out of power. What a loser. I am yet again sending my congratulations. Austria's Jews have reportedly been mistreated, but we're just as bad when it comes to anti-Semitism, so it's okay. To present more details, I am giving it over to my wonderful Secretary of State, Charles Lindbergh.
My fellow Americans, this is your Secretary of State. I have just uncovered a vast conspiracy by the Jews, Soviets, and British to plunge us into a war with Hitler. While I am unable to present evidence at the moment, it is clearly them and Roosevelt who are provoking Hitler, Mussolini, and Tojo, who only want peace. As your Secretary of State, I will work with the greatest possible rigor to ensure that this country is not compromised by foreign actors. Thank you and good night.
Wow, lucky Lindy, that was unhinged even for you. Ladies and germs, excellent news has arrived. Chamberlain, the leader of France, whose name I forgot, Hitler and Mussolini just signed the Munich Agreement. Chamberlain has declared peace for our time, and I think that the Limey is right for once. It was incredibly brave of the British and French to sell out the Czechs. Now, Hitler has a vast and sophisticated armaments industry as well as great defensive fortifications. It's a great win for everyone, as well as Mussolini, who's a brilliant diplomat. It's a quid pro quo, a very smart word. Hitler and Mussolini are men of their word. We can absolutely trust them. Things are looking great now, especially if you look away from the fact that fascists are burning all of Spain and Asia down. Grab your champagne, folks. We have secured peace. Folks, despite our best efforts, we were unable to secure peace. Because of a series of provocations, Hitler has invaded Poland. It was a lightning strike of an offensive unlike anything you've ever seen before. The Polish Air Force has been completely destroyed. They've just bombed Warsaw to the ground. Well, Warsaw does have the word war in it, which is quite threatening for their neighbors. Also a result, Comrade Stalin has invaded Poland from the other side. Molotov and Ribbentrop are very clever people who were able to put their differences aside to outwit the pathetic democracies of Europe. As I speak, Nazis are committing horrific atrocities in the name of living space. It's like what we did to the natives, so why try and stop them? I'll have my Secretary of State elaborate on what the hell is going on.
My fellow Americans, I greet you at this desperate hour. They have finally done it. They have convinced the world to plunge into another needless war. Who is this, they, you may ask? Why, vested Jewish interests, of course. They whispered into Hitler's ear day and night, convincing him to invade Poland. They beckoned to him and he submitted. Britain and France, also controlled by the international Jew, came to the aid of Jewish Poland against the Jew-manipulated Adolf Hitler and Jewish-owned Soviet Union. It's a conspiracy that Father Coughlin and I are toiling to crack day in and day out. Regardless, we must stay out of this Jewish war. Thank you for your time.
Biggest fucking news of all time. The Nazis and their great allies, including Italy, Romania, Bulgaria, and Hungary, along with Finland, have all invaded the Soviet Union. A brilliant move if I ever saw one. Hitler was determined not to open up a second front. So by opening a second front, he caught the Allies off guard. A great move. You always got to be unpredictable.
I am in complete agreement with our Commander-in-Chief. Hitler has struck a dagger into Judeo-Bolshevism and is sure to win this war. Regardless of Russia's vast reserves of soldiers, horrific climate during the summer and winter, springtime mud that stops vehicles in their tracks, and the fact that the German military is only experienced in fighting short wars against smaller countries. As Secretary of State, I have informed Congress and our military that we are joining the Axis and will jointly invade the Soviet Union, starting with naval landings that will capture the city of Vladivostok. My fellow Americans, I have lied to you about wanting peace, but it was a necessary lie. The Japanese and the rest of the Axis don't pose a threat. Jews, gypsies, communists, and homosexuals do. My fellow countrymen, these are dark days in our national history. But the sun will rise up once again once we help our ally and champion of the German folk, Adolf Hitler, achieve his living space. Thank you, dear listeners.
My fellow Americans, I have deeply and profoundly fucked up. After losing 500,000 soldiers in the frozen Siberian wastelands, the unthinkable has happened today. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, sinking a ton of boats and killing many of our guys. For the first time in my life, I will stop lying. All I wanted was political power and was swept into it by exploiting the wave of populist isolationism across the country. I gave it an anti-intellectual edge unlike any other. Folks, it is not in our interest to be surrounded by fascist aggressors that could attack us like they did today, or contain us geopolitically or economically. Secretary of State Lindbergh and Ribbentrop are not geniuses. They are cocksucking Jew baiters that mask their hatred against the Jews in democracy and isolationism and talk of peace. I always knew that Hideki Tojo was not to be trusted, but you fucking idiots kept voting me in, rewarding me for sticking my head in the ground like an ostrich. You preferred sweet little lies to the uncomfortable truth that America has to come to the aid of democracies around the world and stop fascism and Nazism by force. Lastly, you kept re-electing me despite the fact that I am completely unqualified for this job. I know absolutely jack shit about foreign affairs and military strategy. I do not know how to unite people during wartime, only how to divide. Hitler, Franco, Mussolini, and Tojo brought out the worst in me because I wanted to LARP as strongmen just like them. I have an inferiority complex matched by no other. Since the politics of 1941 still has some decency and expectations, I am announcing my resignation as President of the United States today. But before I formally do so, I will be firing all Nazi sympathizers in my administration, including Charles Lindbergh. Charles, you're fired. I would like to endorse Franklin Roosevelt for president. You couldn't bring yourself to vote for him because he told you facts about the harsh reality you live in, but now is the time to grow a pair and realize that democracy is worth fighting for. This is in no way an analog for 21st century geopolitics. Thank you. It was big fun being your president.
No, this was a fabricated radio broadcast. Do not believe it for a moment. The Jews are using advanced technology, or perhaps even the dark arts, to mimic President Trump's voice. He is a man of the people for letting the Axis take over most of the world. Oh shit, the Capitol Police are here. Well, it looks like the broadcast was real. It appears as though Trump was manipulated by the Jews. I will have a moment of revelation in this case too. The notion of Judeo-Bolshevism and the international Jew are just red herrings that I have employed to gain political power. I knew that Trump was susceptible to these retarded ideas, as he wanted to radicalize his base even further. I am a complete disgrace and a fraud. I have committed treason against my country and sided with ruthless tyrants who want nothing less than world domination. It appears as though my time has run out, as the new administration is already settling into the White House. I bid all Americans a farewell, and will try to go through an entire day without talking about the Jews.